Hello, one and all. Welcome to another episode of the MMA Vision Analysis. This one, I'm here to talk about UFC Fight Night Abu Dhabi, specifically the fight that took place in the welterweight division. The fight between Tony Ferguson and Michael Chiesa. I'm going to talk about this fight specifically and what I think will happen for Tony Ferguson heading into the future. But before getting started, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification to get all of this that is new from this channel, your channel, the one and only MMA Vision Analysis. Wow. This one is very interesting for me. I don't know quite where to start. Tony Ferguson, another loss. I lost track at this point. 5-6 losses in a row. I don't even know anymore. I have to be fair, and I have to analyze the fight for as long as it did, and I have to analyze the fight correctly. So, up until the takedown, Tony Ferguson looked pretty good. Matter of fact, I think he was ahead of Chiesa. I do understand that we're talking about a fight that lasted less than a round, but bear with me here. Tony Ferguson at 170 did not look depleted. Looked pretty healthy, in all honesty. He looked the healthiest that I've seen him in a while. Torso was full. He looked like a legitimate 170-pounder, even though Michael Chiesa was a much bigger guy than he was, and that was evident. During the time of the takedown, Michael Chiesa, I don't want to say ragdolled Tony Ferguson, but he certainly showed his size and power advantage during the takedown, and he did what Michael Chiesa does best. But I would like to start off, like I said, by complimenting Tony Ferguson for the few good minutes that he showed, because I believe in terms of movement, and there weren't many punches or strikes thrown or landed, but I think Tony Ferguson, generally speaking, showed good head movement. He showed really good head movement throughout certain parts of the few minutes of the fight. And I had a good feeling. I had a good feeling up until the moment that Michael Chiesa got a hold of Tony Ferguson, quickly took Tony Ferguson down, got his back, and wasn't long after that the fight ended with a rear naked choke. That's pretty much what you expect Chiesa to do. I don't think many people expected Chiesa to stand toe-to-toe with Tony Ferguson and outstrike Tony Ferguson, even though I think that was an option for Michael Chiesa, but the natural thing for him to do is exactly what he did against Tony Ferguson the night of UFC Abu Dhabi, August 3rd. Was August 3rd of 2024 the last time we saw Tony Ferguson inside of that octagon? Well, that's up for debate at this point. If you did watch the fight, you watched the interview afterwards, you did hear, obviously, Tony Ferguson talk about retirement just a little bit. He got a wonderful standing ovation, one that he deserves. And he only put one glove down. He said, oh, okay, I'll give one glove, and one glove he'll take home. He wants to consider it with his family, and he says in UFC. Will we see Tony Ferguson back in the octagon again? Possibly. It's very possible. The guy did not resemble a guy that's ready to leave the game. Of course, results-wise, it's definitely been the case. It's been like that for a while now. But in terms of mindset, he still feels like he has a lot to give. And you don't want to have what-ifs if you were Tony Ferguson, just because I feel like that's going to weigh on him. It's going to add a huge load, a mental load on him if he was to go out and go out in a way where he doesn't feel like it was quite time for him to go out. So from a psychological point of view, I kind of do understand the effects that it might have if you were to force this guy out of the game. If he doesn't fight in the UFC and he still wants to fight, he'll probably find himself elsewhere. But the dude wants to fight, like I said. At this point, with Tony Ferguson, we've been reached the point of diminishing returns, obviously. Last night, I must be fair, he did not look the worst. Me personally, obviously, I don't think Tony loses anything if he was to retire right now. And last night's standing ovation, even after his loss, is a great testament to that. People love Tony, no matter what. No matter what, people love Tony. But I think at the same time, people hate seeing Tony being a stepping stone for other fighters. Really to get an easy win. It's been proven time and time again, and we don't want to continue seeing that. Unfortunately, I think we will see Tony Ferguson back in the octagon again. It was clear he doesn't want to go out on a loss. He wants to win, and probably then he'll consider retiring. Now, can we please match this guy up with somebody that he can actually fight and stand toe-to-toe with? Because, Michael Chiesa and Bobby Green, whoever's, let's try to be more thoughtful in terms of matchmaking for Tony. I don't know if that's the UFC's way of forcing kind of Tony Ferguson to leave the game just by giving him actual tough fights. And the dude is, I think, too tough for his own good, in all honesty. I think toughness can only get you so far. You have to be able to give punishment, not only receive it, obviously. That's how you win fights. You have to have the ability to take punishment, most certainly. And if you can avoid it, that's even better. But you have to be able to give punishment. And unfortunately, Tony Ferguson, that has not been the case for him as of late. Matter of fact, he's looked outclassed in every single one of his last, I want to say 6 fights, 5-6 fights or so, something like that. I lost track at this point. It's a sad story that's unfolding in front of us. I don't want to say I knew. It's easy to say I knew after the fact. But all of us as MMA fans, I think we all kind of, let's say we kind of knew, there's no other way of putting it, that the result was going to be exactly that. I think we were all hoping for something different because everyone, I would assume, loves Tony Ferguson. Il Kakoi. What happens for Tony next? Very interesting for me to see. I know I'm not a fan of seeing him back in that octagon again, but I also know that if he was to fight again, I would most certainly be tuned in because I am waiting for a Tony Ferguson win. Like I said, I wish the guy doesn't have to do it anymore. I think he loses no love from the fans. That was clearly evident last night. Standing ovation in Abu Dhabi, a whole different continent. And he was surprised himself, and he even mentioned it. But if he was to be back in there, I would most certainly be tuned in. Will it be a 155, 170? Who knows? There are no easy fights. Not at that level. And we have to take into consideration the dude's mental well-being as long as his physical well-being, which are two different things somehow in this situation. Physical well-being goes to him taking damage and people and himself. When I say people, I mean fans and the UFC as an organization and Tony Ferguson as an entity on his own have to all meet somewhere together and make a decision in terms of, hey, do we need Tony to take more punishment? And we also have to ask another question. Is it going to cause any mental instability or trouble for people to force the guy out of the game when he feels like he has something left to give? So I don't know. It is a very, very difficult decision. Me personally, obviously, I don't want to see the dude take any more punishment. I would like to see him be content with where he's at. And obviously, as of now, with last night's interview after that, it just doesn't seem like he's content with leaving the game this way. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for sticking around. Please let me know what you think in the comments and like, subscribe for more.